Welcome into Suits and Laterals, episode number 2 for the 2016 season. I'm Mitch Gatsky, joined by my favorite co-host, Ev Skilleter. How are you?
Great, Mitch. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Did you have a good
We
long
are.
weekend?
I did. Labor Day weekend was very fun for me. I actually went down to Virginia for a wedding. A good friend of mine from college got married. I got to see some of the old college buddies. Whole lot of fun. Stories we probably shouldn't get into on this show, but you know how that
I
goes.
get it. I get it. Yeah, that's awesome.
What
Good
about
stuff,
you?
man.
Anything big over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I had a fantasy draft Friday, and afterward, hung out with some of those guys. So I also have some stories I shouldn't share. Um, Went to the Indians game Sunday. Yeah, I mean, it was an eventful weekend. I had a good time.
Um, College football started, so I'm sure you saw a little bit of that. But as
Yeah.
we get ready for the weekend coming up, we're going to be talking about NFL football. And this is the week before the regular season starts, we're going to treat this episode as our, I guess, playoff picks, division picks episode. And we're going to work our way through each division and see what's stood out to us in the offseason and try to shed some light on who might be walking away with division crowns and headed to the playoffs this year. So, Ev, where should we start?
Why don't we go with NFC? We'll start on the right side of the United States, the east side. Um, NFC East. Do you have some picks there?
I have to go with the Washington Redskins. Now, I know that there might be a whole lot of questions about the defense and um, a new running back in the mix down there. But for me, Kirk Cousins is the reason why they're going to win this division. It's for me, it's kind of a wide open division. You look at the other teams that the Redskins will be playing. You got the Cowboys, who knows what to expect from them without Romo. The Giants, I'm not a big believer in at all. Eli Manning, I think, can be very hit or miss. And the last few seasons, he's been more miss than hit. And I just think maybe the Giants, their whole style is kind of stale for me with Tom Coughlin and just the way that they do business. I think maybe it's time for a switch up there. So I'm not expecting them to make any big waves this season. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, they'll probably be the worst team in the division. I'd say there's just a whole lot going on there, and they've got a lot of things to figure out. What do you think?
No, so I actually have the Redskins finishing 7-9, and I have the Giants at 9-7 and the Cowboys at 9-7 as well. And let me tell you why. So the Cowboys, they've been a hot topic. You know, if you missed the news, they've signed Mark Sanchez, who was just cut. And so now they have Dak Prescott and Mark Sanchez and an injured Tony Romo, who for some reason Jerry Jones decided not to put on the injured reserve and leave him as an active and available player, even though he has a broken back. I don't quite understand that. His reasoning is what is it's so just in case we need Tony, we can use him. I don't
Right.
get it. It doesn't matter anyway. Dak Prescott and Mark Sanchez, from my understanding, they're going to go through the week, see who performs better, and go with that quarterback as the starter. I see it being Prescott since he's been in the system for 4 games in the preseason, and he's the younger guy. And in the time between now and when Tony Romo comes back, I think they're going to go with the younger guy. So Prescott's going to be your starter, but I don't know if that matters as much. With the offensive line that Dallas has and the running backs that they have, I do think Ezekiel Elliott's going to be great. I think Dallas will be a good team. People say they might be bad, people say they might be good, and I'm definitely leaning toward the good. So I have the Giants and the Cowboys finishing at 9-7 together. Um, there are a couple swing games in there, I'm sure, in their schedule, but I ultimately see the Giants winning that division, whether it's a 10 and 10-6 record or 9-7 record. I do think they finish in front of the Cowboys.
So
So
what is it that puts the Giants above the Redskins and the Cowboys?
I think it's Eli Manning. I think it's his
So you're a
experience. You know,
believer.
he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback with more weapons this year than he had last year. Last year, no Victor Cruz, relied heavily on Odell Beckham Jr. You know what you're getting when you talk about the Giants. Okay, now they have Victor Cruz back, and they have Sterling Shepard, who I believe will be a hit there in New York. So. I see the Giants having the edge over the Cowboys because of experience and because of leadership. So, I, one thing, when you say the Redskins, I'd be interested to go through their schedule with you um, and just see what you think as far as wins and losses go before the
Let's
season
do it.
starts, obviously. So, week one is a primetime game against the Steelers at home. You
Yeah.
taking those skins?
Uh, I'm going to take them just because it's at home, to be honest with you.
Okay, I don't take them. I'm taking the Steelers. Uh,
See, and we're going to get into this because I believe we went through each other's picks before the show here. You got the Steelers winning the AFC North, correct?
yeah, we can get to that later on, but I think Big Ben in prime time, he's going to put up some big numbers. Obviously, Antonio Brown is a no-brainer to be a big player, and D'Angelo Williams is going to start because Le'Veon Bell is suspended. And last year, we saw D'Angelo Williams put up huge numbers in the first 4 weeks that Le'Veon Bell was suspended. So I take the Steelers there, but I see you. Okay, so one win there for the Skins. Week two, home against the Cowboys.
I'm going to go with another win for the Redskins. Too much going on for the Cowboys. I don't think they'll. I don't think they will have figured out how they need to play with Dak Prescott as the quarterback yet, and I think that confusion will lead to a Redskins win.
I agree with you there. So you have two wins. I have a 1-1. At Giants, week three.
This I think is where the Redskins take their first loss.
Okay.
It's tough to win division games on the road, and I think the Giants are going to be able to pull this victory out.
Okay. I also have a loss there for the Redskins. The Browns, do I have to ask?
No, that's a
Week
win.
four, win. At the Ravens, week five.
That's another win. I'm not expecting too much from the Ravens at all this season.
Okay. I actually have a loss for the Redskins. Ravens at home.
Interesting.
I give the edge to the Ravens at home there. So that's okay. So you're at 4-1. I'm at 2-3 on my schedule here. So then we go home against the Eagles.
That's a win. The Eagles are bad.
Yep, I agree. At the Lions,
That's a win. I know better than to pick the Lions in anything ever.
I'm with you there. So now we come into this incredibly tough stretch of games. Okay, um,
Yes.
at Cincinnati.
I believe that's a home game. That's not at Cincinnati.
No, it's at Cincinnati.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So it starts at 9:30. So it must be a London game. My apologies.
Yeah, that would make sense. Okay.
So
It doesn't
neutral
matter where they're
site.
playing.
Home against
They're gonna lose to the Bengals.
Okay, I agree. They have a bye week, week 9, and then we go week 10, Vikings at home.
Uh, this is a tough one. I think that by the time this game rolls around, the Vikings should have figured out what they're going to be doing without Teddy Bridgewater. I'll go with the Vikings.
Okay, me as well. Packers at home.
Probably a loss. Aaron Rodgers, prime time. I mean, it's hard to pick against that.
Okay, at the Cowboys. So you've already picked the Redskins against the Cowboys once at home. Do
Right.
you pick them at the Cowboys?
See,
Week
this is
12.
the hinge. This is a hinge game, and I think that the Redskins will be able to go down to Dallas and get a much needed victory. And this is going to be the one win that's going to push them into the division crown.
Okay, well, I would have to disagree there. Going to Dallas, I'm giving them a loss there. At Arizona.
That's got to be another loss. The Cardinals are probably, the Cardinals and the Panthers are the class of the NFC.
Sure. Okay, so that to me ends that rough stretch of games. You're looking at
Yeah.
Bengals, Vikings, Packers, Cowboys, Cardinals. A very, very tough stretch of games. And then they go to Philadelphia, which should be a big sigh of relief. And I'm sure we can both agree that that's a win.
Should be a win, yes.
Okay. Then they're home against the Panthers, prime time, December 19th.
Yeah, as I said with the Cardinals, the Panthers are the class of the NFC, and I think that's going to be a loss for the Skins.
Okay. At the Bears, week
That's
16.
a win. The
Got
Bears
them
are
as a win.
dreadful. That's a win.
I'm with you. And then at home against the Giants, that could be probably the game of the season for both teams if the division
Yes.
turns out the way you think it will. I have the Giants
Yes.
losing that game, so I gave that one to the Redskins. You as well?
That's interesting because I think, as I mentioned earlier with that game, um, drawing a blank here. Anyway, as I mentioned, this is going to be another one of those hinge games. And I have to give the edge to the Redskins. I think they'll sneak in with a win in the last week against the Giants.
So you have them at 10-7. I had them at 7-9 with losses in those in that tough stretch. A loss against Carolina, loss week 1 against the Steelers, a loss at the Giants, and a loss at the Ravens. So that's a 3 point swing. Um, we went through the schedule. I honestly see the Giants pulling out this division. I really really don't see it in the Redskins. I know that Kirk Cousins had a great end to the year last year, but I'm just not seeing it. So
And really, for
there,
me, that's just why I'm going with the Redskins. I'm expecting Cousins to come back and have continued success, and that's pretty much what I'm putting my Redskins NFC East hopes on.
okay. So let's move on to the NFC North then. I think we can all agree that the Packers take that division. I have
Packers
I have the
easily.
Packers at 13-3. And then second
Same.
place, I have the Vikings, and then Lions, and then the Bears. Can we agree on that order at least for now?
Um, nah, maybe. I think the 2 and 3 spots will be interesting because the Teddy Bridgewater injury certainly opens the door for the Detroit Lions to make a move and contend for a wild card spot as opposed to the Minnesota Vikings. But at the same time, as I said earlier, I'm very reluctant to pick the Lions in anything. So I think to figure that one out, I'm going to have to see them play a couple of games. But for right now, yeah, I guess we can somewhat agree to that order.
Okay, well, I definitely like Sam Bradford in that Vikings offense. Now, that's something we didn't mention today. That news is that Sam Bradford has been traded to the Vikings from the Eagles for a first round pick next year and a fourth round pick in 2 drafts. So um, Sam Bradford fits in, I would say, pretty well. He's got some decent receivers there with Diggs and Treadwell's in there now. And obviously, Adrian Peterson's going to kind of run that offense figuratively, I guess. So, okay, so we'll agree on that and we'll move on. The show's not long enough to be in depth about every division. So,
No, I mean Aaron Rodgers is enough to win the division. Let's leave it at that.
yeah, perfect. So we move on to the NFC South. I would say it's a no-brainer that Carolina wins this division. I have them at 12-4. Do you disagree with that?
No, but I do have them at 13-3.
Okay. Let's. I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? 12-4, 13-3. They're gonna win the
Well, I think
division.
I
We
think
can get into
I think
that
the
later
one
on.
is we can get into it right now because I think the one is the game against the NFC West champion, the Cardinals. I believe you have the Cardinals at 13-3 and the Panthers at 12-4. I have the reverse. They do have a head-to-head matchup, and that's where the discrepancy comes in for us.
Okay. Um, I like the Cardinals. I guess it is at Carolina, but I definitely think that the Cardinals pull that one out. That's a swing game, really. I mean, we can sit here and talk about it all day. I think at the end of the day, the Cardinals have a lot of offensive weapons, but are very good defense, and I think the Panthers have a very good offense and a solid defense as well. So, that's one I'm definitely looking forward to on, I guess, week 8, October 30th. So. But regardless, both make the playoffs. Um, and then how about your second place team there in the NFC South?
In the South, I'm going to have to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that is one of my teams to snatch up an NFC wildcard spot. I'm really just a big believer in Jameis Winston. I think this is a guy who's got all the tools, both mentally and physically, to really be the next great quarterback in this league. A lot of talk was coming out of college that Andrew Luck would assume the role of the next Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, whoever you want to fill in there. But I think now that we've seen a little bit from Andrew Luck, he's struggled with some injuries, and basically Indianapolis just doesn't have any sort of defense to keep him in any games. And down in Tampa Bay, I just see Jameis Winston being uh, a young, energetic leader who you may have some issues with. He's certainly done some questionable things in the past, but when it comes to on the field play, I think we're looking at one of the top 5 young guys in the league right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I really like Jameis Winston. I also have them finishing second. I don't have them as a wild card team, and we can get to that when we wrap up the NFC West and look at the playoff picture. Um, but I definitely have them second, and I have the Falcons finishing third. So, are we in disagreement with that order?
No, I think the Saints, they're going to take a step back this year. Drew Brees is not going to be enough for them to just kind of coast by as they normally do.
Sure. All right, so we move out to the NFC West. What do you have out there?
As we mentioned, I got the Cardinals winning. Um, I think they're going to sweep the Seattle Seahawks, win both at home and on the road to lock down that division and bump down the Seahawks into the top wild card spot. I think obviously the Seahawks would be second in the division. I think they'll just lose that one home game to the Cardinals, and that'll be enough. They can split, go 4-4 on the road, and still be good with just the one home loss to the Cardinals and get into the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, I have Arizona at 13-3. It sounds like you might have them at 14-2. Did I hear that correctly?
I'm going with 12-4.
12-4 for the Cardinals.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I have the Seahawks finishing second, um, as well, also in that top wild card spot. And then the 49ers and the Rams can be interchanged, I suppose. But I guess I would probably pick the Rams before the 49ers. But as far as the playoff picture is concerned, it won't matter in the long run. So we agree on that order, at least the top two there, Arizona and Seattle.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that takes us to the playoff picture in the NFC. Uh, Packers, Cardinals, Panthers. I have the Giants. You have the Redskins, right?
Yeah. The
All right.
potatoes.
And then the top wild card spot, we both have the Seahawks, correct?
Yes.
But I believe we disagree with the second wild card spot. And you have the Bucks, and I have the Vikings. What
Correct.
can we go through the Buccaneers schedule, kind of how we did earlier?
Oh. Oh yeah, we sure can.
Okay. So week one. So first of all, I have Tampa Bay finishing 8-8, with, well, no, solid 8-8. So let's go through this real quick and see where we might disagree. Uh, week one at the Falcons.
That's a win. It's going to be
Okay,
tough, but it's got to be a win.
I have that as a loss. Um, at being at Atlanta, I do see Atlanta scoring enough points to win the game. I think it could be uh, a shootout, but I do have the Falcons winning that, so that's one loss for the Bucks. Week two at the Cardinals. I think
Got
we
to be a
both agree
loss.
that that's a loss. Week three against the Rams at home, win.
Win,
Week four home against the Broncos.
win.
Week five at the Panthers.
That's a loss.
Week six is bye. Week seven at 49ers.
Win.
Week eight against the Raiders.
Um, total total toss up. And now that we're taking a second look through this, I can't remember if I originally thought that the Bucks would get this win or not. But let's call it a win for now.
Okay, I took the Raiders, and we'll get into the Raiders later on. But I'm very excited about the Raiders this year, and I gave that one to the Bucks. It sounds like you gave it, or I'm sorry, I gave it to the Raiders. If you give it to the Bucks, that's okay. But it seems like you're also kind of up in the air, so that could really be a swing game and an important win for really both teams. Um, so then week nine at home against the Falcons.
That's a win.
Week 10 at home against the Bears.
That's a win.
Week 11 at the Chiefs.
Loss.
With you. Week 12 at home against the Seahawks.
Probably another loss.
We agree there. And then let's see here. We have week 13 at the Chargers.
That's got to be a win.
At or home against the Saints.
Win.
At the Cowboys.
Again, could go either way.
Remember, this is week 15. Cowboys have had a
Right.
almost a full
Right.
season.
Right. Could go either way. I don't know what am I at right now? What's the record at?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins so far
Okay.
for the Bucks.
Well, then that Raiders game is going to need to be a loss. Basically, I only think the Bucks are going to end up 9-7, and there are a few games on their schedule that I think could go either way. Basically, what I'm figuring is if they lose at Atlanta in week 1 and at Carolina and at New Orleans, they should still be able to get the wins to make it into the second wild card spot with that 9-7 record. I don't think that their out of division games are tough. I mean, you look at road trips like at San Diego, they got the Bears. They're going at San Francisco. They play the Rams. The Broncos, I think, are pretty overrated. There are some winnable games on the Buccaneers schedule, and that's really what I'm hoping will happen for them is they win some of these swing games, as we are calling them, and that'll be enough to get them into 9-7 in that wild card spot.
Okay. My only issue is that the Vikings have two stretches of 5 and 4 games, respectively, that they can win fairly easily, I think. And so I have the Vikings finishing at 11-5, and that's simply because I am buying into the Sam Bradford. I guess maybe you can't call it hype at this point, but I think Sam Bradford will be a good fit for that offense. And they were a playoff team last year, and they should have won their first playoff game if they wouldn't have missed the chip shot field goal. That they win that game. So this is a
Right.
playoff team that added Laquan Treadwell, which he could be a good 3 receiver. They lost, sure they lost their quarterback, but they brought in another quarterback that can get the job done. So I have them finishing 11-5. So that's one that we'll have to watch pretty closely. So we're pretty much in agreement on everything except the Redskins and the Bucks making the playoffs there. So Uh, that's fair. That's pretty good. Um,
Yeah, and I think a pattern that we're going to see, especially as we start to transition here into the AFC, the trend in the NFL right now really is the haves and the have-nots. There are basically two teams in each division across football that you can just about write off already before we've even played a game. I mean, it's just hard to see teams like Miami and the New York Jets putting up any sort of a fight against the New England Patriots. And as we move into the AFC East, assuming that you have the Patriots winning the division with 12 or 13 wins. Am I correct?
yeah, I have 13 wins for them, and then the Jets and the Bills could go around 8-8. I think in the long run, the playoff picture that doesn't actually matter. So the only team that matters to me out of that division at the end of the season are the Patriots. If we move over, are we
AFC
are we in a
North. Yeah, I
yeah?
mean we're pretty much in agreement. The Pats are going to run away with the division. I do have a slight disagreement when you say that the Jets and the Bills will not factor into the wild card race. I believe that the Bills will be able to sneak out enough wins to get the first wild card spot at a 9-7 record, but we can come back to that later.
Okay. So we go into the AFC North then. Uh, who do you have winning this division?
See, here's where we have our biggest difference. I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is a team that's won at least 9 games for the past 5 seasons, and the only other team in the NFL that's done that is the New England Patriots. Of course, the problem comes in once Cincinnati's in the playoffs, but we're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking winning the division, and I think the Bengals, who are pretty much intact from last year, will be able to do just that.
How many wins?
How many wins for the Bengals? Let's give them 11 wins, 11-5.
Okay, so does that mean that they're taking at least one from the Steelers?
Yes, at least one they would need to.
Okay. Well, so I have the Steelers winning 12 games. In looking at their schedule, it, it's just not a very challenging one. Okay, so we're talking week one at the Jets win. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong schedule up, but I have the Steelers going winning their first one, two, three, four, five, 6 games, and that's including a home win against Kansas City, which will actually be a pretty good game, one to watch. It's another primetime game on NBC. Um, so let me go through the Steelers' schedule real quick. Um, at the Redskins, week one, I'm giving it to the Steelers. At home against the Bengals, week two, that's a win. At the Eagles, week three, win. That Chiefs game, that'll be a tough one, but I still think the Steelers win that one at home in prime time. The week five game is at home against the Jets, another win. Week six is at the Dolphins, another win. So that's 6-0 right out of the gate. And then they play the Patriots at home, but I still think Tom Brady and the Patriots take that one. Week eight's a bye week. And then week nine is at the Ravens. And it seems like in that AFC North, there's always one game or one team that takes a game they shouldn't. And I think that one's going to be the Ravens. So that's 2 losses for the Steelers there. And then they play the Cowboys at home. I give that to the Steelers. At the Browns, win. At the Colts, win. Home against New York, win. At the Bills, win. At Bengals, we could count that as a loss. And then home against the Ravens and Browns to end the year, that's 2 more wins. So honestly, that's only 3 losses, maybe four, if they slip up somewhere along the line. So as long as Big Ben stays healthy, Pittsburgh's going to win a ton of games, and I don't see the Bengals winning enough to take the division. I do have the Bengals in the wild card or in a wild card spot.
So obviously, you do think that Big Ben will be able to stay healthy for the Steelers to win all these games.
I would say this is assuming Big Ben stays healthy. Do I think he will? I think he might miss a game or parts of games, but I think that he'll stay healthy enough to make a big impact for the team.
See, kind of like Eli Manning and the Giants, I'm just not willing to give Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers the benefit of the doubt. Um, we're talking about teams who historically do have the track record, quarterbacks who have shown us the capability of going out and winning ball games. But uh, Roethlisberger last season, to begin with, I've never really been a big fan of his. I think I just don't understand how his game works. Really, it seems like it's kind of just luck. But last season kind of opened my eyes to how much the Steelers rely on him and his play extending and just the rally, I guess, that they get from him and some of the plays that he makes that it doesn't look like he should be able to make. And I just, like I said, I'm just not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not ruling out the fact that they can go out and win 12 games this season and win the division, but I'm just saying I think there's a much better chance that the Bengals go out and do that
Okay. All right. Well, that's definitely a division to watch then. If we move on to the AFC South, this is a really tough division to call. Um,
because it's trash.
well, I'm not ready to say it's trash. I
Come
think we
on.
have, I think we have three middle of the road teams
Middle of the
who's
road. What road? What road are they in the middle of?
the NFL road. Houston
Ugh.
Houston has Lamar Miller, who will fit into that run heavy offense just fine. They now have a quarterback who is the undisputed starter. They still have DeAndre Hopkins, and their defense is still a very, very good defense. So the way their schedule lines up, they could win 8 or 9 games. That's a middle of the road team. Jacksonville, not enough people are giving Jacksonville the credit they deserve this year. Okay, they have plenty of weapons in Robinson and Allen Hurns. Mercedes Lewis is a great tight end, and they have Chris Ivory and T.J. Yeldon as running backs. And then Blake Bortles is coming along just fine. He's been in that offense long enough now that I think we'll start to see Jacksonville play better and better. They're a middle of the road team. They could go 8-8 easily. Indianapolis, you never know what you're getting with Indianapolis. If Andrew Luck plays like Andrew Luck should, then they could win 8 games, but he doesn't have a ton of pieces around him to help out. So they're going. It's going to be tough for them to win those 8 games, but it's still very possible. You never know with that Andrew Luck. So Tennessee, I wouldn't put them as a middle of the road team. I think they're an up and comer, but this year's not going to be their year. So I think it's silly not to say that these are three middle of the road teams. They're not 12-win teams. They're not 11-win teams, and they're probably not 10-win teams. But they need to get enough credit to be considered middle of the road teams, and someone has to win the division, right? So
Yeah.
I have
Well,
Houston at 9-7, winning the division. I have Jacksonville and Indianapolis both finishing 8-8.
like you said, somebody's got to win the division. And having a real quarterback should guarantee the Texans the AFC South. I think they could get to 10 wins just because, man, these other three teams are bad. I like where the Titans are going with some of the draft picks that they make. Um, I do like Derrick Henry and Marcus Mariota in the same backfield. I think that's just very interesting. As far as Indianapolis is concerned, again, they don't play any defense. You can forget about them as far as I'm concerned. Jacksonville, I'm not buying. I think Bortles is going to end up falling on his face, and they're going to need to look for another quarterback in the offseason.
How do you
So
figure that?
I just don't see it from him. I don't, he showed flashes just at the end of his college career, stirred up all this hype, became a high draft pick, and then disappeared for 2 years. And now all of a sudden all of a sudden his name is being brought up and he's taking strides. I don't see it. I need to see it this season. And frankly, I'm not sure he's going to be able to show it to me.
Okay, well, I definitely disagree about Jacksonville. I think they are going to be decent, and I think they're going to be better next year, and I think they're headed in the right direction. So I'm taking Houston at 9-7. I don't have Jacksonville or Indianapolis making a wild card spot. So I suppose if neither one of them can push for the division title, they're irrelevant toward the playoff picture. So, um,
I think that division is should be irrelevant toward the playoff picture.
well, I guess we could probably agree on that. So AFC West, who do we disagree that the Chiefs will win this division?
I think the Chiefs have to win it because mostly because the Broncos, I believe, are going to struggle with even less production from the quarterback position than they had last season. They were able to overcome it with just a tremendous defense and a stabilizing running game, really. But I think this is the season where we see Alex Smith and Andy Reid find a way to get the Chiefs into uh, find their way to a 10-6 record and an AFC West championship.
Yep, I'm with you there. Um, I think the story out of the AFC West for me, this is a team that I'm excited uh, to watch and follow this year. Oakland Raiders. Uh, Derek
Yes,
Carr has has passed. He's thrown a lot of touchdown passes. He still has good weapons to throw to in Crabtree and my goodness, I don't know how it's Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper, my
Of
guy.
course, yeah. Their offensive line is very very good. And their running game was supposed to be good last year and kind of struggled. I still think it'll be okay. I think we'll see Latavius Murray take some strides in the right direction. Um, the defense has some holes, but I think if the Raiders can score 25 or 24 points per game, they should win 9 games. And I'm very excited to watch them. I think they'll be an impressive team to watch and a fun storyline for the
Absolutely.
season.
And I think the fact that um, the door is open in the West helps them out tremendously. I have the Raiders at a 9-7 record, and I think a lot of that is because I'm not expecting much from the Broncos, and I'm not too overly confident about the Chiefs being able to pull out the division. So I think the door is certainly open for the Raiders. And it's a young group that really does look ready to make its mark. Derek Carr, I think, will become not a household name, but he will finally become more of a name than his brother, I guess, the
Yeah.
former David Carr
No, he still is
of
David
Houston.
Carr.
Well, formerly of Houston Texan fame.
Right. Okay. So we look at the AFC playoff picture then. Who are your wild card teams?
My two wildcard teams, the Raiders get the second spot, and I got to go with the Bills. And I don't know if it's just because I love their draft class from this past season with Shaq Lawson and Reggie Ragland, Adolphus Washington, Cardale Jones. Um, I don't know if it's just that, and I'm expecting those guys to come in and make an impact quite quickly, or timely matchups against bad teams, I think also help a lot. We're looking at an opener at Baltimore. Again, I'm not expecting much from them. Um, they also have a stretch of winnable games in between their meetings with the Patriots. So they're at the Patriots on October 2nd. The next week, they'll be out in LA. Week after that, they have the 49ers. Then it's out to Miami before they play the Patriots again. So hopefully they can get those 3 wins in between two tough games against New England. Um, and then towards the bottom half of their schedule, the last 3 games are home games against the Browns, Dolphins, and Jets. No, that last game is at the Jets, but even so,
Still winnable.
should be a win for the Bills. So I just like where their games fall in the schedule, I guess, and uh, the culture seems to be changing. That's totally overused, but I do like what Rex Ryan is doing in Buffalo.
I do like the Bills. I do like them to finish with at least 8 wins. But here's my problem with picking the Bills for that second spot. Um, well, if Big Ben stays healthy, where where do you think the Steelers are going to finish? How many wins do you think they finish with? Or
Well, see, that's the thing.
are you basing that pick on Big Ben not staying healthy?
Yeah, I think a lot of my discredit to the Steelers is just the fact that I'm not sure Roethlisberger can stay healthy for a whole season, and if he can't, I'm really worried about what happens to the Steelers. Um, and even if he misses just a couple of games, that might be enough to get Pittsburgh in one of these situations where they're right there, but they lost the wrong game at the wrong time to the wrong opponent, and they're going to end up on the outside looking in.
Okay. Well, I think that's fair then. I think my pick of the Steelers winning 12 games or 13 games is solely based on Ben Roethlisberger staying healthy. So if he doesn't stay healthy, your pick is the Bills, and I suppose that's fair. So we're looking at the Patriots. If you're looking at it from my perspective, the Patriots and the Steelers, as well as the Chiefs and the Texans, and then my two wild card spots are the Raiders and the Bengals. Now, I guess I do agree with you. If the Bills, um, or if Roethlisberger doesn't stay healthy, the Bills can take that second spot, and the Bengals move in as AFC North champions. Um, so yeah, I think there are some things we disagree on, and the things we disagree on are all storylines that will be followed pretty closely throughout the season. Um, so do you want to recap real quick what your playoff picture looks like on both sides?
Yeah, we can do that. I'll start off in the NFC. I got the Redskin Potatoes win in the East. The Packers win the North. Panthers win the South. Cardinals in the West. Seahawks and Buccaneers got the wild card spots. Over in the AFC, I have Patriots in the East, the Bengals in the North, the Texans in the South, the Chiefs over in the West, and the Bills and Raiders grabbing those wild card spots. What about you?
Yep. So I have in the NFC the Packers and the Cardinals getting the byes, and then I have the Panthers against the Vikings and the Giants against the Seahawks. In the AFC, I have the Patriots and the Steelers getting the byes. I have the Chiefs against the Raiders and the Texans against the Bengals in the wild card weekend. So I'm interested to know what you, the listener, thinks. If you want to get a hold of us, you can find me at Skilliter, Skilliter on Twitter, or you can email me at evan.skilleter at campuspressbox.com. I suppose I have a Suits and Laterals email as well. Mitch, what about you?
Yeah, didn't we get an email from a listener last week? What email was that directed to? Because we should throw that out. Apparently, that's where emails should be directed.
Yeah, so I think that was at that email address was hello at suitsandlaterals.com. And that
There
was
you
a good
go.
email, actually, that we're looking forward to sharing. We just didn't really have time today. But next week on the show, we'll get back to the Colin Kaepernick argument, and we'll chat about this email that we received. Pretty lengthy from a listener named John. Uh, very, very good email. We appreciate the response. So we will get to that. I'm sure Kaepernick will still be a story next week. So we'll get on that next week. So that's it. Hello at suitsandlaterals.com. And Mitch, what about Twitter?
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at GreatGatsky, GATZKE. Shoot me an email, mitch.gatsky at campuspressbox.com. And yeah, find our writing on Campus Pressbox. We're in the middle of college football season now, so Ev, I'm sure you'll be writing about your Kentucky Wildcats, unfortunate as they may be. And also, stay tuned for more episodes of the Suits and Laterals podcast. Will be here all year long.
Looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Mitch. I'm not Mitch Gatsky. He's Mitch Gatsky.
I'm
I'm
Mitch
Evan Skiller.
Gatsky. You can be
Stay
Mitch
right.
Gatsky next time.
Okay, that might be all right. But until then, stay right and stay real. Thanks for tuning in.